Welcome everyone to the Eyefinity Encompass Boosting Efficiency with Image Management presentation. Thank you for joining us today. We welcome your questions throughout the presentation, and you can enter them by clicking on the Q&A icon on the top of your screen. My name is Linda Park, and it is my pleasure to be with you today to introduce Jeremy Law.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jeremy. You can see some information about me here up on the screen. Just to give a little background, I've worked in eye care for over a decade, and I've been here at Eyefinity for about going on, about to be 8 years. So I'm thrilled to get to talk to you about image management today. So we're going to go ahead. I'm just going to skip right past this, and we're going to go into the meat of the conversation today, which is why you might want to use image management. So for anyone who's not aware, image management is a premium feature available for our EHR, which allows you to basically connect all of your diagnostic imaging equipment. And that might include things that you don't typically think of as imaging devices. So to give you some examples here, of course, we can connect to your fundus cameras, we can connect to your OCT, but we can also connect to things like your visual fields machine. So if it exports something like a PDF report, we're able to pull that right into the patient's record. Maybe you're taking external photos using the iPad or a slit lamp camera. We're able to pull that right into the patient's record. And that's one of the main advantages. I would say it's the main thing folks use image management for, is to have one consolidated location for all of your diagnostic imaging. So I can open up the patient's record and I can view all of the history of their imaging with the practice from one location. So I'd say historically, that's been the primary reason folks choose to use image management with our platform. But it's not the only benefit. So one of the other things that I like to point out is, oftentimes you have software that comes with the device that you've purchased. So your fundus camera will have its own software. Maybe you have an OCT, it has its own software. Your visual fields has its own software, and they don't all talk to each other. So again, you have that consolidated view with image management, but also you have the flexibility of how you both access and review and also share those images with your patients. So, for example, you're able to review everything from both the web and iPad applications that we offer, and I'm going to cover both of those today. And you also really help streamline the efficiency of your practice. So, for example, if your staff are taking fundus photos or doing some like FDT testing or Humphrey visual fields, they today might be manually attaching those records to the patient's chart, and that can take time, right? To do that, you got to find that file on the PC and then manually upload it to the patient's record. With image management, we're able to just look at the metadata for the patient and say, oh yeah, this image belongs to this patient, and we read it automatically. So it completely cuts out all of the work of a staff member having to go and manually attach images and other reports and things to the patient's record. So it saves a ton of time in the pre-testing lane, and we're about to unveil a new feature which is going to make that even slicker. So I'll talk about that in just a second. Also, the ability to share images, like I mentioned, is something that's easier to do with image management. So, for example, if your patient is in the exam lane and maybe you've got a patient who has diabetic retinopathy and you're seeing, or they're in the early stages of having diabetic retinopathy, and you can see progression year over year, but they're not maybe being compliant, they're not watching their blood sugar. You're able to just turn the iPad to them and show them the progression of their symptoms year over year. And I think that's really powerful. When I talk to doctors who use image management, they say that wow factor of being able to essentially just turn the device to the patient and show them side by side is really powerful. And of course, you can do that on the web application as well, show it on the big screen, whatever your preference is. But you're also able to download the images from image management, send them via intramail to the patient's portal. So, patients, I'm sure you've all heard, a lot of times will ask like, hey, can I get a copy of my fundus photos, for example? So we make that easy to do with image management. And then finally, if you're going to share images with other providers, so maybe you're going to refer them to an MD or you want to show their PCP, like the progression of the diabetic retinopathy, and ask them to take a closer look at the patient and managing their diabetes. You could do that via the our auto letters feature or direct mail, basically any of the ways that you're referring patients today. Now, I did mention we have a new feature coming soon. It's a feature called the modality work list. That is a mouthful, I will be the first to admit. But it's a term we didn't come up with. This is a standard term you may have heard of before when it comes to imaging devices. Essentially, what this is the ability for your staff or you, if you're operating the imaging device, to just skip all the busy work of manually entering the patient's information into the imaging device. So I don't know how many of you have used those like soft keyboards that come on the imaging device. Sometimes some are better than others. I have PTSD from when I was a technician, and when I would be trying to enter in patient information, I'd be trying to type in someone's name, and you hit the same letter and it doesn't respond, so you hit it again and again, and then it catches up, and you have to backspace, and it just takes a long time to enter in patient information. And I'm sure all of you have encountered this experience where you're looking for a patient in the device and you realize actually I have maybe two or even three records of that same patient, because when I or my staff were manually entering in the patient's information, maybe we messed up their date of birth or we spelled their name wrong or something like that. So this modality worklist feature takes the schedule that you use to manage your practice and it just pulls it right into the device. So as a technician, all I have to do is turn the device on. I see the schedule of my patients for the day, and I see, oh, in front of me is Linda. I'm going to go ahead and select Linda. All of her information is pulled right into the device. So you don't have mistakes, you don't have duplicate patient records, and the pre-testing goes so much faster. And the practices that we've trialed the modality worklist with, we've gotten reports that it's reduced their pre-testing time in some cases by over 50%, which is huge, right? That frees up your staff to do a multitude of other things to help better serve your patients. So we're really excited about this feature. All right, so that's my overview of why to use image management. But I do want to just, really quick touch on, I guess, the main 4 points I would say is one, it's going to streamline your pre-testing. So like I just mentioned, it's going to make it much faster to take images of your patient and also to get those images into the patient's record. You're going to have fewer duplicate and missing records when you use image management because, again, if you're using the modality worklist feature, it's going to make sure that you don't have to manually enter in patient information into the device. You're going to have a comprehensive view of all of your patient's images, which is fantastic, right? So you just have one place to go and look at all the images. And finally, it's really easy to review and share the images. So I can access them from home if I want to, right? It's all cloud-based storage. So anywhere that I can use the Eyefinity EHR app, I can access the patient's images. So let's go ahead and get into some demos. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here in just a second. So you'll see the screen go black for just a moment, and then you should see this coming up here. Perfect. Okay. So,
Yes,
um,
we can see your screen. Thank
awesome.
you.
Thanks for confirming, Linda. So I think we're good to go. You can see I've got this patient here, Clark Gable. Now, if you have image management enabled, you'll see that there's this button on the action bar for image management. And I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit just so you can see this a little bit better. So you have this button for image management, and it's available here when I'm in the patient chart. Or, for example, I've got a visit for today. So I'm going to open this visit, and you'll see I have image management here on the action bar as well. I'm going to zoom back out. So you can see in this case, Clark Gable's come in. I've got his chief complaint. My staff went ahead and took some screening retinal photos, which I can see here. And rather than today going to view attachments or going out to, for example, to my actual device software and having to open that, I can simply just click image management. And now I've got a view of all the images for this patient. So I'm going to take some time and walk you through what you're seeing here. I'm just going to assume everyone here hasn't seen image management before. So apologies if some of this is review for y'all. But you can see here, I've got a lot of different stuff on display. I've got some fundus photos here from an Optos. I have some another view essentially from the same Optus. I've got Humphrey Visual Fields. I got a Cirrus Report, IOL Master. So you can see it's able to display not only what you think of typically as photos, but also these PDF reports as well. And if you're taking something like external photos, you'd be able to see that here too. It's really it's very flexible. One other thing I'll point out, right, is that none of these images came in from me having to manually upload them. It's the system essentially seeing the metadata associated with the image and just pulling it into the appropriate patient record automatically. So looking up here, I have some filters. So I can say, like, I just want to see specific dates. I can say I only want to see specific devices, like just my Optus. I can see along the left-hand pane here all the different devices that I'm currently integrated with. And I'll just point out, this is a process that our support will help you with. So if you think like, oh, do I need to do the work of integrating the devices, like, the standard equipment integration that I have for my maybe my autorefractor or my lens meter, you don't have to worry about that. When you begin using image management, our staff will be there to essentially do the configuration for you. We just need to have somebody on site who's there to kind of give us access to the network. So we take care of the hard work of setting up the devices for you, and you'll see all this what we call the studies along the left-hand side here. There's some different views here, so you can basically view compact mode or multi-view. You'll see that in compact mode, I'm only seeing a few images for this particular study, which occurred on in July of 2017. And of course, I can expand that if I want, like this. But if I have multi-view on, then it's like looking at a proof sheet. I can see all the images that have been taken. You'll also notice that some of these images have annotations on them. I'll show you how to do that in just a second. If I click this button for new study, this allows me to upload images from my computer here. So essentially, maybe I have some historical images I want to pull forward. This is a question that I know comes up quite often when I'm chatting with folks, which is, well, what about all of my historical images that I've taken before I started using image management? And there's various ways that you can get those historical images into the patient's record. We have a partner that we contract with, that we just, refer folks to if they're interested, and they can do a migration for you of your historical images. But if you just want to do it yourself, what I've been told works really well from folks who use image management is to just have your staff, like whenever a patient comes in and they're a returning patient and you can see their images haven't been pulled forward, you just have them come in, go to the device, hit print to send them again, and then image management will pull them in. Alternatively, you could get those images on your PC and you could upload them manually like this. But I would say what I'm showing you here, this is something you really shouldn't have to do very often. Would just be in rare cases where, for example, maybe the patient information in the device isn't correct, and so we can't find a match. And so you might want to manually upload something, but generally speaking, you shouldn't have to do that. But if you did want to, you can choose the date that the images were recorded on. You can select the device that the images are associated to, and then you basically you could either drag and drop, or you can click this, which allows you to pull in something from your computer. Here I have the ability to do a side-by-side comparison. So if I do that, you can see here, like I've got these fundus photos, and I've got my left eye and my right eye. And if I hit this button to sync the images, then whenever I go for, well, these are, hold on, let me unsync this and let me find this here. Actually, I'm going to choose a different date. We're going to do about this one and this one. Yeah, and let's say I want to look at it like this. Then when these are synced, you can see that it will advance both sides at the same time. So I think prior to this, I messed up the order of my images since this is a test environment. But typically the way that you would use this is you could have it synced so that you're looking at the right eye and the left eye in tandem. So again, like if you were trying to show a patient who maybe isn't managing their diabetes very well, you could see that they're getting the early stages of DR. You'd be able to show that over time with this synced view, and maybe the right eye or the left eye, one is better than the other. You could also do the same thing to compare, for example, if you had different views of the eye and you wanted to sync them up, you could do that as well, so that you're looking at the right eye and the left eye in tandem like this. And you can point out different findings that may be visible in one view but not visible in the other, um, or vice versa. So that is the sync feature, which I think is very, very useful. And I'll show you that on the iPad as well. In terms of the settings here, I'm not really going to go too much into this. I don't think it's super important, but this would be an area where, again, you can basically find images that weren't able to be matched to a patient successfully. This is where you would come to reconcile that. So again, if you basically find the patient and you say, oh yeah, this is these images, we tried to pull them in, but this patient isn't in the system, then that allows you to essentially say, oh, well, that person is actually this person over here. You can match the record, and then it'll pull that information into the record. It'll pull in those images, I should say. All right, so I'm going to return to the home screen here. And you'll see that I just want to take a closer look again at, for example, the visual fields. So here you can see that this is just another benefit of image management. I think a lot of people don't think about, which is that you can view things like PDF reports through here. I'm going to swap this view so I want this to be OD on the left, OS on the right. And you can see I can view all of the findings of my visual fields report here. So I don't have to go to the device to do that. I can also do a comparison. So I can look at, for example, historically 2017 versus 2015 versus 2013. And I can review that information. I can scan just by scrolling my mouse wheel to see what the deviation might have been, year to year or exam to exam. In this case, this is just a test patient. There's like no difference in this patient practically at all. But you can see how this could be useful if you're trying to kind of understand historically what's going on with the patient. I will show just one more thing here, which is the Cirrus report that I've got. So this is just another example. Um, and if I wanted to, you can compare things like I could compare the fundus photo, for example, with the Cirrus report. And although I would say maybe I want to do this with the Humphrey visual fields, and again sync them and show, if there are findings related to one eye and then findings related to the other eye. I'm able to do that side by side. So I just kind of want to show the flexibility here, the ability to reference multiple images at the same time, which I'd say is definitely the strength of using image management, right? I've got this consolidated view. I can view everything here from one place, which I think is pretty powerful. The last thing that I'll do is I'm going to go into this fundus photo, and maybe I want to do some annotations. So maybe I'm seeing something, maybe I'm seeing like a hemorrhage or some spot that I'm concerned about. I can go ahead and I can annotate them, so I can circle that. I might want to insert some text, so I can do that as well. So I might say that I'm seeing like a heme somewhere, that I want to document that. I have the ability to change the annotation color. So for example, maybe I'm thinking, oh, this red isn't really popping against the fundus photo here. I could change that to green, for example, and I can make annotations that way. I can use the arrows to draw. And ultimately, once I'm done with this, I can save my annotations. And what you'll see is that it's going to save it as a copy. It's not going to actually overwrite the original image. So I'm able to essentially preserve what I originally captured, but now I've got this annotated version here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to back out from here and return to this screen so you can see the overall view. And I would just say the last thing I would point out while we're here on the web version are the ability to essentially send this to the patient's record or to download these images if you want to do something with it. So we do have a print button. So I'll just start out by talking about that. The print button, not a lot of folks use it, but it's there if you want to, for example, give print out a copy of the patient's images for them. If you've got a really nice laser printer, right, you might have the ability to do this. This is a really slick function for those folks. I've talked to one doctor who does have a very, very nice printer, and so they give patients sometimes like a physical copy of their images. But I would say most people probably don't have a printer that's that's going to give you a really, really good image of the eye. So I would say you could largely ignore this. But when it comes to these two buttons, these are the ones that I would want to focus on. So I would say the download image button you definitely want to keep in mind. So this allows you to download this if you wanted to, you know, uh, get the images on a flash drive for the patient, or you wanted to email them, you could do that. But I would say most of the time you won't really need to use the download image button because you have this button that says send to Emma attachment. So if you click this button, this allows you to actually send this image right to the patient's record. So in this case, I'm going to take my annotated image and I'm going to say that I want to upload this to the patient's attachments. And then when I actually go back to the patient's record, which I will show you here in just a second. Oh, sorry about that. My screen changed. Let me get this back on the screen. You will see that that attachment is now part of the patient's record. So I'm just going to refresh here. I'm going to go to this patient's attachments. And actually, I will go out here just to see. Okay, and here is that, well, this is actually one that I did earlier. So give me 1 second here. Out of here. Apologies, just working in my test environment here. Sometimes it throws me some surprises. We'll go back, bring this back up. Okay. I think there might be something going on with my environment right now, so I'll investigate that. But essentially, what happens is you're able to. This is something I did earlier. You can see essentially the image in the patient's attachments, and I should be able to see it in the context of the visit as well. But I think I might have misconfigured something when I was setting up this demo, so that's my fault. Um, Again, I think that this is super useful here on the web application. If you have like a big monitor in your exam lane, a lot of times folks will have like a TV mounted to the wall that allows you to blow up the images really big and show them off to the patient. So I think that's pretty nice. But what I would say my preferred way to use image management is to use the iPad app. That's just personal opinion for me. So I'm going to share the iPad so that you can take a look at that now. Okay, so let's bring this up one more time. Okay, bear with me for just a second. Sharing from the iPad. It's giving me a prompt here to address. Okay, I'm not seeing it. Linda, if you do see the iPad, let me know, but I'm not seeing it on my end, so I'm assuming I need to reshare again.
Yeah, that's correct. I'm not seeing the iPad either.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and do that again. Okay, there we go. All right, so everyone should be seeing the iPad screen here. In this case, I've got Clark's chart open again, and you can see that I'm looking at the iPad view. Of course, I have both the tile view here and the detailed visit overview. I'm going to switch over to the detailed visit overview just because I've been using that lately. I like this for the consolidated view it gives me, and it's also very similar to the web application, so I can kind of use both, and then they both feel and look the same. In this case, you can see, yeah, I've got my screening retinal photos. It's the same patient, so I'm going to just go in. Now, the way that I access imaging on the iPad is I'm going to tap the More menu here, and you can see that I've got imaging listed as my primary tile right here. Now, on your side, you might have imaging be lower on the list, but again, all you have to do is hold these icons and you can drag and drop them into whatever order you want. So maybe I want imaging over here or down here or wherever. I like having it in the top left corner there. So I'm just going to go ahead and save it like that. Oops, I hit the wrong button, but now I'm going to go ahead and go back and we're going to select imaging. So with my imaging pulled up, you can see this is the view from the iPad. I am able to do, I would say, 90% of the things from the iPad that I could do from the web. The only exception from that would be when it comes to reconciling images that we've gotten from a patient, like that screen that I showed you where we weren't able to figure out who the images belonged to. That's a feature that's only available on the web, but everything else is pretty much the same on the web and the iPad. So you can see here, I'm just going to go from top to bottom. The patient's information is listed across the top. I have the ability to do a new study, just like I could do on the web, which allows me, if I hit this, to essentially pull in images. I'm going to go ahead and say no for now because I don't want to pull in anything, but I can essentially, this is actually really helpful from the iPad. I could use my camera to take external photos. Maybe the patient's got some blepharitis or some bruising or some sort of infection that I wanted to take external photo of. I could do that right on the iPad and pull it immediately into image management. So I think that's a nice feature of the iPad that's unique to it since it has the built-in camera. I can also go in here and I could select images. Sorry, let me back out really quick. I can select the little bubbles here from the images, and then I can choose to compare, delete, or print the images. If you have a Bluetooth or wireless enabled printer, you can do the same thing I talked about earlier, just from the iPad. But these are the same images. So in this case, I'm going to pull up this image. And I'm going to show you here. Again, I have the ability to send this to the patient's attachments. I can rotate it if I want to. If this were an OCT scan, I could play the scan. And I can also draw on it. So I'll just show you that really quick. So this is the annotation. So you can see it looks a little bit different on the iPad. I have these different tools I can use, whether it be the pen or in this case, like the marker tool, just gives you kind of different stroke thickness. I have the ability to do arrows, text. I can erase things. On the iPad, this is really nice because I can actually use either my finger or I could use my stylus if I have like the Apple Pen or just, generic stylus to actually draw things. So I have a little bit more control than I might have with the mouse, which is really nice. But again, I have the ability to do all the things that I showed you on the web. Plus, it's really easy for me to like hit undo if I didn't like something or, change, for example, the thickness of the brush. So let's say I want to do a big circle here. I could do that, though I would say that's probably more than I would actually want. So maybe something like this. Ultimately, this is the same as the web. So if I save this, it's just going to save a copy of the image. It doesn't overwrite my original image, which is very nice. So I'll always have my original. In this case, I'm just going to hit cancel. I'm going to go back. Here, I can show you the ability to compare images. So I'm actually going to go back to, let's look here. And I want to compare these side by side. So I'm going to say, all right, I want to sync. And then now you can see when I am looking at this, oops, 1 second. I'm going to unsync these again for a second. Yeah, see that. Okay, so I can go ahead and I can swipe through and I can basically do a comparison. In this case, I'm looking at the same study, but maybe I want to do like 2021 versus 2017. So just to show, the eye comparison from one study to the next. So I'm able to do that with these synced. In this case, I only had 1 or 2 photos for that one. Let me see. I think I have a few more here. So essentially, I'm able to keep that synced view. Again, this is a demo environment, so folks have added a few photos in here, so it's not perfectly synced, but in the case of an actual patient, you would really only have pairs of images, so it'd be pretty easy to keep these in sync. Going back out here, I'm just going to show you again. These are all things that I showed you on the web here, but just so you can get a kind of a feel for the form factor on the iPad. I have the ability to review all of the different studies. And in this case, if I want to, like here for 2017, remember I had, a couple dozen photos. If I select view proof sheet like this, then that'll allow me to see everything that was recorded on this day. So this is very useful if you're taking a bunch of images of the patient's eye. And again, even things like this, like if I want to view Cirrus report or Humphrey visual fields, all of that can be accessed right here from my iPad. And I can zoom in if I want to, if I want to get a closer look, I'm trying to read something, or I want to get a better look at the, for example, the thickness map or the deviation map. All of that is possible to do from the iPad. It's pretty intuitive and easy to control. But this is really nice because again, I don't have to go out to a different device or a different portal to get access to these images. It's all in one place. And again, if I'm seeing something going on with the patient's eye and I really want to draw their attention to that, suddenly, rather than me showing it up on a big screen, which I think is still effective, I think being able to just literally show the patient the tablet like this, sitting side by side with them, is very powerful. So that's personally why I really like the iPad view. I think that's about everything that I had to show here. Let me think if there's just anything else to cover. We went over, I guess the last thing that I'll add, right, is I didn't cover on here is if you just want to add images into the specific study that you've got open, you can use the add images button here, which would allow you to take like maybe multiple external photos and upload them all at one time. But again, you could also do the same thing with new study. So can't really go wrong. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop sharing and we will take a look at our PowerPoint here. Yep, perfect. So I will just kind of ask if there are any questions at all. I know that we've got plenty of time here. And if there are no questions, then I'll share a few other things, but I'll just pause here. Any questions from anyone on the call?
And just a reminder, if you do have a question, you can just enter it using the Q&A icon on the top of your screen. So it does not look like we have any questions today. Was there anything else you wanted to ask, Jeremy, before we move on?
Yeah, I'll add one more thing, which is related to the beginning of the call. So I mentioned that feature, the modality work list, which is something that you can go ahead and search if you want to see some examples. But basically, if you have imaging device that is what's called DICOM compatible, you don't super need to worry about that. But essentially, if it's a DICOM compatible device, then what we can do is we can pull the scheduling information into the device. And that's something that we're going to be piloting. We've already had like a very limited closed pilot, but we're going to be expanding that pilot in December. So I'm really excited. I'm hoping that we're able to start to make that available in the first quarter of next year. So if that's something that you're interested in, if you're already using image management, feel free to submit that as a question or in response. I believe you get a survey at the end of this. Feel free to say like, "Hey, I'm interested. I would love to pilot that," and we might be able to work you in there so that you can get early access to it. It'll just be a feature that comes with image management. It's not something that you need to worry about paying extra for. So we're really excited to be able to just add that to our image management offering. And yeah, that should be available very soon. If there are no further questions, then I think that wraps it up for me. Linda, I'll pass it back to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And if you do not currently have image management, you can scan the QR code on your screen for additional information. And in addition, if you are looking for additional training, we have other learning options, including documentation, tutorials and walkthroughs, role-based training, additional training webinars, one-on-one virtual training, and on-site training or consultations. And you can learn more at eyefinity.com/education. Okay, so with that, I would like to thank you, Jeremy, for going over all of the great features of image management. And also thank you to everyone on the line for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. This concludes our presentation.